Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. Dimension Game. Emperor of Europe descends, highly liked popular online articles. He brought back memories of the fear of being dominated by the European Emperor. Mobile game draws unlimited SSR, street side 5 yuan lottery draws 5 million, all casinos have blacklisted him, even playing mahjong is unbeaten, and playing online games is a knife and knife strike, with no gaming experience. Amidst countless anime, movies, and games, the magnificent life, endless opportunities, and endless wealth are all within reach. Fong Cheng, he will use his invincible European Emperor card drawing operation to bring everyone a joyful and fun experience. Now, the game starts. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Now, the game begins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Welcome to today's news. In recent years, higher education parks have brought a large number of outstanding talents to various sectors of the country. In September of this year, higher education parks will recruit students from various universities. Yesterday, Sichuan, a student from Fujisawa City, was bitten by a wild beast in his sleep and was seriously injured. He is now out of danger and nearby residents should pay attention to closing doors and windows after nightfall. 16-year-old boy, Nine-Headed Dragon 81 won the title of Dragon King in this month's shogi game, becoming the youngest recipient of the title in the current shogi competition. Tokyo, Shibuya, bustling crossroads. A boy of about 15 or 16 years old, wearing slightly outdated half-frame glasses, wearing a loose white shirt and casual pants, leaned lazily against the traffic light post at the street corner. He gazed at the large screens of buildings on the streets of Shibuya, browsing through the news and interesting stories on them, and admiring the enthusiastic girls on the roadside with his spare time. It's really interesting. Young Fong Cheng, now known as Quan Cheng, was an ordinary unemployed wanderer from the Heavenly Dynasty a few minutes ago. Now, he is just an ordinary traveler. Before his time traveling, Fong Cheng, who was alone, was just an orphan. He didn't have the huge wealth left by his parents, nor did he have the handsome appearance of relying on his face to make a living. However, he had luck comparable to using a game modifier to cheat. Fong Cheng referred to this ability as absolute European gas. In any lucky game, whether it's a 10-game draw in a mobile game, a casino million shuttlecocks, a small lottery on the street, or even a Russian roulette with a gamble, as long as it's related to luck, he will never lose. Mobile game draws unlimited SSR, street side 5 yuan lottery draws 5 million, all casinos have blacklisted him, even playing mahjong is unbeaten, and playing online games is knife and knife critical strike, with no gaming experience. The happiness of wealthy people is beyond your imagination. Luxury cars, luxurious houses, beautiful women, delicious food, and various enjoyable entertainment. After countless extravagant times, Fong Cheng, who tasted all kinds of fungus and vomited it, finally became bored. Therefore, by chance, Fong Cheng reached a contract with an unknown creature who claimed to be the god of dimension and released him into this world composed of daily anime. Sure enough, there are no ugly women in the anime world. Looking around the crossroads of Ikebukuro, Fong Cheng looked at the colorful girls one by one. Even though there were some mediocre-looking girls, there were no women who hindered the view, and even their hair was colorful. Before traveling, Fong Cheng not only experienced life, but also watched many anime. Compared to the mundane life in the real world, the diverse abilities and even immortal lives in anime are the treasures he pursues. Moreover, after signing a contract with the Dimension God, Fong Cheng must play a Dimension game once a month, striving to survive in a world full of dangerous dungeons. This kind of life is what makes me feel happy. Fong Cheng smiled lightly and slowly stood up. His current identity is Kazumi Cheng, and he is also the brother of Kazumi Shizumi in Teacher Arrow manga, perfectly replacing the life winner Kazumi Masamune in the original work. However, I don't have time to enjoy my sister's gentle hometown now. Just as he finished his journey, standing on the streets of Shibuya, Kazumi Masahiro lifted his palm. On the back of his hand, there was a crimson contract scar that seemed like a curse, emitting a faint glow. The dimensional game is about to open. Please ask game players to draw initial rewards. In his mind, a system prompt came to mind, and Kazumi Cheng smiled nonchalantly and said, "Since that's the case, let's draw an indestructible ability. The extraction is completed, and your initial reward is Bloodline Asian. The initial reward extraction is complete, and the player is about to teleport to the dimensional game instance." A moment of daze swept through my consciousness, and the roar of traffic and bustle in my ears gradually faded away. The warmth of the sunlight was replaced by coldness. Now, the game begins. His head was throbbing with pain, as if he had been hit hard by the ogre with a club. It took him a long time for He Quanqing to recover from his dizziness. He shook his head and looked around at his surroundings. Here is a long-abandoned two-story villa. It should be the living room on the second floor of a small villa, where he is sitting on a decaying sofa. In front of him is a collapsed coffee table, with ashtrays and teacups on top. In front of him is a TV cabinet and an old TV set placed on it. The walls in all directions have decayed, the wallpaper is covered in muddy yellow stains, the corners are piled up with spider webs, the glass on the windows has shattered, and thick dust is falling everywhere. Of course, none of these are important. Whispering. In the arms of He Quanqing, he was holding a petite girl. At around the age of 15 or 16, Fang Cheng's soft black hair flowed like brocade into his arms. Although his figure was short and barren, his fair skin texture was like condensed fat, with an excellent hand feel. Her pretty face was adorned with a tear mole, and her young body exuded a mature allure. The stark contrast and cuteness made Kazumi Cheng unable to hold down his gun. And it's not just her. In the living room of the haunted house, there were 8 other people who either collapsed on the other 2 small sofas or lay on the ground in all directions, clearly having just been teleported and in a state of fainting. Where is this? Who are you? Are you a robber? Just as Fang Cheng was observing them, a burly man woke up and quickly got up. He put on a judo start and angrily shouted at He Quanqing. Looking at his appearance, He Quanqing joked. "Not bad, you are the best quality newcomer this time." Upon hearing this, the sturdy man who had just stood up was slightly taken aback, and then the other few people also woke up in a secluded manner. What exactly happened? Here is. I was playing games at home. Why did I appear here? Who are you? Why did you kidnap me? I still have to go to work. If I'm late, I'll get fired. Please spare me, let me go. The scene was out of control for a moment, and the judo man who had just stood up also showed doubts. They accused and questioned each other, and the noisy voices were like 100 ducks hissing. The petite girl in the arms of Kazumi Cheng also gradually woke up. Ah! The girl lying in He Quanqing's arms exclaimed in surprise. She quickly pushed He Quanqing away and fell to the ground in embarrassment, her exquisite black Gothic dress stained with a layer of dirty dust. Rue! Who are you and what do you want to do? She asked in horror, with a hint of a second-rate mouth fetish, while Kazumi Cheng closed his eyes slightly, and waited for these guys to calm down. In his mind, the system explained in detail the newly extracted subhuman lineage. Asians are a unique creature that is no different from humans, but they have almost immortal vitality. After Asians die, they can be reborn like phoenixes, and after a brief repair of their bodies, they can be resurrected. Currently, no technology mastered by humans can completely kill them. Moreover, Asians are able to summon and drive the black ghost, IBM, formed by the fusion of electromagnetic waves and vitality. This unique creature is similar to a double messenger's double, and normal people cannot observe it visually. It has strong attack power and can instantly recover after being shattered. Bloodline, Asians, quality. EX passive attribute, infinite resurrection. When a player dies, they can be resurrected unconditionally, and the resurrection time is determined by the completeness of the corpse. Active skill, Black Ghost. Summons an invisible black ghost, IBM, that can attack spirits, and its strength is determined by the player's basic spiritual attributes. Introduction. Death is just the beginning. Player. Waquan Cheng level LV.1 genealogy. Subhuman, EX, physical fitness. 117, related to vitality, strength, endurance, etc., with an average human value of 100, spirit. 168, related to cognitive activity, willpower, reaction speed, etc., with an average human value of 100, for a long time, the noisy arguments in the haunted house finally came to an end, and players of the dimensional games sat or stood, covered in dust and looking very embarrassed. Have everyone calmed down? Having communicated with the god of dimension in advance, Kazumi Cheng, who had some understanding of dimension games, pretended to be an experienced player and said to these disheveled game players, "As long as you close your eyes, you can recall the cause and outcome of this game, and he will give you the answer. Hey! Did you kidnap us?" Upon hearing this, one of the mischievous thugs roared in displeasure, while the other messy homeless man rubbed his nose and said vaguely, "This should be some reality show, it's really troublesome. I have to pick up bottles in the afternoon." Yeah. Which crew is so unethical? Where are the cameras? I have to work in the morning, and being late will get fired. No. A social animal in a suit and leather shoes hurriedly spoke, sweating profusely and looking frightened. He grabbed the handbag next to him and was about to walk out. Upon seeing this, the thug and the homeless followed closely behind, while a college student hesitated for a moment and followed suit. In an instant, a team of 10 players left with 4 people, and the crowded haunted living room became much more spacious. Quanching watched the scene with cold eyes, his face calm, and he looked at the others and whispered, "You'd better first recall the system prompts in your mind, otherwise you might die." Everyone closed their eyes skeptically, and a message suddenly appeared in their memory. The first act. Absolute terror of Jedi survival, task completion condition. Survival for 7 days. Contestants. Takahiro Abe, Ryuyan, Hirohito Kishimoto, Makoto Wazumi, Hiroyoshi Tanso, Ryohira Suzuki, Tadakatsu Sato, Kuri Minamoto, Makoto Ito, and Takao Kates. There are a total of 10 players, all from the same worldview. In an unknown small town, there is a legend of the murder ghost Freddy in his dream, and outside the town, there is also a filthy lake called Crystal Lake. One day, your classmate Fujian Kawakami gave you a videotape. In a well-known haunted house of the Sabo family, you watched the video with your classmates seeking excitement. The stairs creaked, sobs came from the bathroom, a tall black shadow blocked the window, and a woman wearing a mask on the street was holding scissors. Now, please live on. Chapter 2. The Sleepy Black Tea of the Beast Ancestors. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ghosts, horror movies, urban legends. People who immerse themselves in the mundane daily life are most fond of seeking stimulation from creations such as movies, anime, and games, and horror stories often stimulate boring people the most. But, experience a horror movie firsthand, it's really. Opening his eyes, under the shiny lenses were dark eyes. Quanching leaned against the dirty sofa, gently rubbing the decaying wood on the collapsed coffee table. The wood fibers piled up with dust were crumbling in their hands. This haunted house of the Zwa family had not been visited for over a decade, and the inferior wood of the coffee table had become extremely fragile under the erosion of time. Not only the coffee table, but also the entire villa is made of wood, with wooden floors and stairs. Although they are broken, they have not collapsed and can still be used. Either the wood used in the decoration of the Zwa family is very good, or feeling the ubiquitous coldness, Kazumi took a deep breath and let the cold and decaying scent fill his body, savoring this eerie taste. Is this the evil ghost? He smiled silently, and for Kazumi Cheng, who was seeking excitement, there was nothing more exciting, joyful, and uncontrollable than surreal things. Hey! What the hell are you from? In the distance, the judo man leaning against the wall scolded. He was tall and burly, with shiny bronze skin that looked very unpleasant. Next to him, there was a sturdy man wearing a blue repairman's uniform, as well as a small-faced high school student and an otaku wearing glasses. Me. Like you guys, I'm a player of this dimensional game. Kazumi shrugged as he threw down the broken wooden debris in his hand and picked up a heavy glass ashtray from the wreckage of the coffee table. Compared to fragile wooden materials, the glass ashtray is intact, but it is dirty and full of cigarette butts and dirt that have turned into dust, making it look very disgusting. You guy. The judo man leaning against the wall raised his eyebrows and looked angry as he approached, ready to teach Kazumi Cheng a lesson. However, a sizzling sound echoed from the old TV in the living room. Countless snowflakes appeared on the TV screen, and in just 2 or 3 seconds, the snowflakes recombined into a gray and hazy image. That is a dilapidated old-style courtyard and a gloomy ancient well. What is this? Sadako. Is it a prank program on TV? The judo man snorted as he saw this, but he still retreated to the side, clearly feeling a sense of pressure. In the old TV, there was a hoarse voice, and Wakwin Cheng was still sitting on the ground opposite the TV. In the remaining light of his line of sight, the TV plug was not plugged into the socket. A faint coldness enveloped everyone present, and for some reason, they felt a wave of fatigue and drowsiness, even making it difficult to lift their arms. Forest cold, piercing coldness brewing in their bodies, especially the bespectacled otaku and the small-faced high school student trembling and rolling their eyes, as if they were about to faint in the next second. On the screen of the old TV, a white shadow crawled out of the ancient well, and the judo man next to the old TV felt a chill in his spine, with a cold and gloomy feeling rushing straight into his brain. He had already felt something was wrong, but he didn't have time to turn off the TV. His developed muscles had become dull under the erosion of the ghostly aura, and he could only turn his head difficult to watch as the female ghost in white gradually crawled over the well, grabbed the edge of the TV, reached out from the TV, and touched his back. Bang. With a muffled sound, they were awakened. The collision between glass was extremely harsh, and sparks and smoke exploded behind the judo man. Broken glass shards and dust scattered on him, causing him to lie on the ground and howl in agony. Stop shouting, what are you crying about? On the dirty long sofa, Wakwin Cheng threw out the ashtray in his hand and smashed the TV screen. He sat on the sofa with great precision, watching the smoke and sparks from the old TV gradually dissipate. At the moment he traveled here, Kazumi Cheng felt that something was wrong with this TV. At that time, although he did not receive a game introduction, he could still detect the problem. In Japan, a country full of homeless people, it is unbelievable that there is still a perfectly intact television in such an abandoned house. Although those homeless people dare not break the law, old televisions are considered rare treasures to them. In such abandoned homes, anything valuable, from pots and pans to blankets and clothes, has already been moved away by them, let alone a TV in perfect condition. After receiving the system's game introduction, Kazumi Masayoshi can be certain that this TV has a lot to do with Sadako in horror movies. The reason why he picked up the ashtray on the coffee table is just that it is heavy enough to smash the TV more easily. Just now, there was a judo man who looked like he was pulling a cool guy and hanging out. He was sitting on the ground, holding his arms and looking like a frightened daughter. Law, which was unbearable to look at. Don't talk nonsense. Kazumi Cheng, who was sitting on the sofa, looked around and saw these 5 teammates all come to their senses. He then said in a deep voice, "My name is Wakwin Cheng, an ordinary 15-year-old active high school student. The starting reward I received was the double ability in JoJo's Wonderful Adventure. Hey! JoJo! Can you still draw that kind of thing? Exclaimed the bespectacled otaku squatting in the corner. Why did I only draw useless fan notebooks? Even though it was a fan notebook signed by Professor Hideyoshi Kashiwagi. Cut. It's just a high school student, what are you dragging? The judo man, who remembered to eat or not, got up. He dusted off the dust on his body, but his legs and feet were still trembling gently. His voice was also a bit weak, obviously scared by Sadako. That. The glasses otaku wanted to explain the powerful ability of the double, but obediently huddled together, afraid of harming the innocent. He glanced at the judo man and said in a deep voice. In these 7 days, we have become temporary teammates. Let's introduce ourselves to each other, and I can also learn from each other's strengths and make up for our weaknesses, so that we can try our best to live together. Tisk. The judo man next to him was about to refute, but he managed to suppress the conversation by smelling the scorching smell of the TV in the air, and his gaze towards Kazumi Cheng was even more unfriendly. My name is Aniluan. I am also a high school student. Please give me more guidance. The glasses otaku quickly said, standing up, nodding and bowing 90 degrees, showing the hypocritical and respectful attitude of the Japanese. Aniluan is also a familiar character with Kazumi Shin. She comes from the daily series, The Cultivation Method of the Female Lead by the Road, and has a very soft personality, but she is also harmless to humans and animals. Abe Takawa is a repairman, and the starting reward he receives is rubber fruit ability. How can this thing be used? Can it make my thing elongate? Or can it expand? Beside him, a strong man in a blue mechanic uniform pouted and muttered. As he listened to the repairman's self-report, Wazumi Cheng's face stiffened. Abe Takahiro, this character also comes from the daily anime, but is notorious. He comes from a very niche gay anime called The Technique of Fecal Miso, and is a very famous good man, gay. And his ability is rubber fruit, which is very suitable for making foundations. Senior, my name is Ito Cheng, said the weak-looking high school student trembling on the side. I drew a firewood knife, but it's not very useful, is it? Kazumi Cheng remained speechless. Although his name also carried the word Cheng, he was incomparable to this Ito Cheng. Any enthusiast who had come into contact with ACGN works would not fail to recognize the founder of this good ship, the scumbag protagonist on campus, and the self-propelled figure of Ito Cheng. Since that's the case, thinking of this, Wakwin Cheng looked at the black-haired girl squatting in the corner, who was about 15 or 16 years old, wearing a dirty gothic lowly dress, looking at the haunted house in terror, afraid of being eaten by the sudden appearance of ghosts. Rue. What does your gaze mean? Report yourself to your family, little one. He Quanqing leaned against the sofa, lifted a stainless steel teapot from the coffee table, while the black-haired girl bulged her cheeks and pretended to glare fiercely at him. Then, she lifted her hand and lightly patted her chest, swaggering and saying, Woo! I am. At this point, a faint blush appeared on her face, and she coughed lightly, saying, that, Wu Gum Lingli, who is also a high school student, drew the prop of the evil king's true eye. Oh. Upon hearing this, Wakwin Cheng nodded clearly. He had long recognized that the girl was Wu Gingli, from the Girl Control series. My sister can't be that cute, but he was still curious about the prop Evil King True Eye that Wu Gingli drew. However, he did not keep asking, but planned to get to know each other and leave immediately. Moreover, he previously reported his family background and claimed that the initial reward he received was a stunt double ability, which also deceived the honest people present. After all, if this special bloodline of Asians is exposed, it may also lay hidden dangers for his future dimensional gaming career. Although the Asian people are not afraid of being killed, if they encounter opponents who are good at sealing or like to be bound by turtle shells, it can be quite tricky. The ability to resurrect is the trump card of Wazumi Cheng, and he does not intend to expose it to anyone. TSK, what are a bunch of high school students dragging? A judo man coughed lightly and said rudely, I'm Hiroyoshi Tian. The little boys are hiding behind me, and I will protect you. Upon hearing this, everyone present showed an awkward expression, especially Kazumi Cheng, whose face was even more embarrassed. Tian Suahauer is very famous. Perhaps most people do not know his name, but they are very familiar with his nickname. Japan's top male actor in GV, Beast Pioneer. The ultimate skill in becoming famous is, the prop I drew was sleepy black tea, well, I don't like drinking black tea. Tian Suahauer waved his hand, his silly and thick black appearance making it hard to look straight at. Really, they are all a group of rude bastards. Hinata and Jushi are still waiting for me at home. Miss Black Cat muttered to herself at 5 o'clock in the morning. She was about to start urging everyone to leave this haunted house and return home as soon as possible, but, I don't know why, but when I opened my mouth, I couldn't make a sound. Even the sound of breathing, heartbeat, and even the friction of clothing disappeared behind her. 2 palms covered in corpses and black hair gently gripped her neck, and a cold chill surged into her brain, making her unable to speak anymore. Then, being dragged, he slowly and silently moved towards the end of the corridor. Chapter 3. Euler 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 Euler. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Abe Takahiro, Tian Soheiji, Ito Cheng, Aniluanya, Wugung Naoli, and after adding me, there are still 6 people left. Sitting on the sofa, Kazumi Makoto silently recited, so, the 4 people who walked away before were Hirohito Kishimoto, Takatsuo Sato, Takao Kates, and Takahiro Suzuki. Have you ever heard of these 4 people? In the shadow of the hallway, Wu Gingli's neck was gripped by her hand covered in corpses, dragging her towards the end of the hallway. However, she couldn't make any sound, even if she scratched the floor with her delicate palm, she couldn't make any sound. She looked at Kazumi Cheng, who was still chattering incessantly, with a hint of unwillingness and pleading in his blue eyes. However, the young man completely failed to see her tragic situation, so, she was dragged by the long-haired female ghost into the cold darkness. However, it stopped. The glass stopped at 5 o'clock. An invisible, warm palm gripped her arm. Then, there's the fist. Bang. 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 In the air, waves of air were stirred up, and invisible black ghosts swung iron fists capable of shattering reinforced concrete, repeatedly beating the ugly face of the white-haired female ghost. The female ghost was forced to loosen its grip on the palm of the 5 watchful glass, and its body was shattered and shattered under the powerful and heavy punches of the black ghost time and time again. Euler 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 Euler. In an instant, the ugly female ghost in a white dress was completely wiped out, and Kazumi Cheng, who was sitting on the sofa, turned his head. In his field of vision, the black ghost that could not be observed with the naked eye was dancing its iron fist, shattering the remaining white ghost aura in the air. The black ghost is a companion of the subhuman bloodline, with low-level intelligence similar to that of animals, completely controlled by the subhuman, and can automatically search for enemies, use weapons, and attack spirits. Just now, after sensing a chill in the forest, Kazumi Cheng didn't hesitate to use his skills to release a black ghost. The Black Phantom also lived up to expectations and easily destroyed Jie Yezi, the clone of. Kill the Ganya clone and gain 100 dimensional points. Is it a clone? Huchuan Cheng quickly stood up, no longer lying on the sofa, but walked up to the black cat Wu Zhengli and gently lifted the helpless girl with a pale face. Save me. She sobbed weakly, tears glistening from her beautiful purple eyes. However, Kazumi Cheng didn't care about comforting the girl. The evil spirits in this haunted house had completely awakened under his anger. In the air, a faint black mist rose up, and the corridors on both sides of the living room were shrouded in darkness. A white shadow swept through them, as if countless palms were swaying in the darkness. Bang! Without hesitation, Kazumi Masahiro controlled the black ghost to blast open the window of the living room, scattering broken glass debris outside. This is the haunted house of the Zwa family. It's like seeking your own death to confront Jia Yezi, who has the advantage at home, here. He cannot, nor dare he, gamble on whether the ferocious female ghost in the horror film, Jia Yezi, can kill him, an immortal. Let's go. Jump out the window. As he roared, he lifted the calves of Wu Gengli. The girl was only 1.6 meters tall, with a gentle weight, slender limbs, and delicate white legs. But now, Waquan Cheng has no time to hesitate. He desperately jumped out of the window, while the black ghost had already rushed downstairs as a buffer to catch the two. The span between the floors of this Japanese-style villa is extremely high, with the second-floor window reaching a height of approximately 5 to 6 meters to the ground. A normal person who has not undergone systematic training can jump from a height of 5 or 6 meters. Although they will not fall to death, they are likely to break bones. In this world of dangerous horror movies, fractures and death are no different. Bang! Bang! However, Tian Soahauji, Abe Takao, and the two strong men did not hesitate at all and jumped down from the window. They accurately landed and rolled, completing a standard buffering action, except for some blood stains on their bodies that were crushed by small stones, without any injuries. But Ito Shin and Aniluan were also two young men, obviously not as brave as the skilled ones. They looked at the gradually spreading black mist in the haunted house and the pale palms protruding from the corridors on both sides, which were already two waves of war and fear and unease. Don't. Don't. Aniluan was already speaking vaguely, while Ito Ching gritted his teeth and was ruthless, disregarding the danger of his life, jumping down from the second floor. Bang! Downstairs, Abe Takahiro rushed over and, with the help of the rubber fruit's ability, steadily caught the thin and weak little boy, then couldn't help but kiss him. He gave Ching Ito a kiss before Ito Ching could react. He was thrown aside by Takahiro Abe. Then, Takahiro Abe opened his arms and shouted at Aniluan, who was struggling by the window. Hurry down. Child. I can catch you. Aniluan also forcefully flipped over the window, but one leg of his pants was already pulled by a pale palm. He cried and howled, struggling with all his might. No, help. 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 Bang. However, an invisible ghost jumped into the second floor and forcefully squeezed Aniluan down. The black ghost of Kazumi Cheng was engulfed by one pale arm after another, and the female ghosts gnawed at the ghost, seeking revenge against this unknown, same kind. However, bang bang bang. The black ghost waved its bandaged fists and beat up the Jia Yezi clones rushing up, down, left, and right. These difficult female ghosts have a cold aura on their bodies, enough to freeze any human, but for the black ghost, a monster made up of electromagnetic fields and vitality, there is no threat at all. With a punch, as long as it hits the forehead, the clone of Naga coconut will instantly shatter and shatter. However, in the haunted house of the Zwa family, the power of the earth-bound Lingjia coconut is endless, with pale ghostly shadows hovering in the air, diving towards the black ghost, and then shattering under its steel fist, turning into pale dust. Kill the Ganya clone and gain 100 dimensional points. Kill the Ganya clone and gain 100 dimensional points. Kill the Ganya clone and gain 100 dimensional points. Meet upgrade conditions. Do you want to upgrade? A series of noisy prompts echoed in Zai Chuanqing's ear, and in the upper right corner of his field of vision, the system reward was constantly flashing on the screen. Upgrade. Kazumi Cheng was slightly taken aback, while at the same time, a pale, burly ghost had already rushed towards the black ghost. That was Suo Bo Gongxiong, who personally killed Jie Yezi's husband. At this moment, this ferocious demon was waving a sharp kitchen knife and cutting at the body of the black ghost. Puff. The sound, like a balloon leaking air, echoed from the second floor of the haunted house. The black ghost, formed by the fusion of electromagnetic fields and vitality, was directly chopped to death by Zubo Gangxiong. The strength of the black ghost is determined by the basic spiritual attributes of Kazumi Masamune. Currently, Kazumi Masamune's spiritual attributes are only 168 points. In terms of conversion, the strength of the black ghost is only slightly stronger than that of ordinary people. If it weren't for it, it could directly attack the spirit body, otherwise it wouldn't be easy to kill the Kazumi clone. However, even if the black ghost is killed, Kazumi Masamune can summon it again at any time. This ghost, constructed by electromagnetic fields and vitality, is closely related to the body. As long as Kazumi Masamune is unharmed, the black ghost can also be resurrected infinitely. Ah, whoa. On the lawn of Swobo's house, an Iluan was also leaning against Abe Gauha's arms, sitting with this good man, holding him and panting heavily. Abe Takahiro was also panting heavily, and even his legs trembled slightly. Just now, the black ghost directly pushed an Iluan down the window sill, and an Iluan's pants were also stripped off. He now only has a thin pair of underwear, which looks very indecent. You two, hurry up and let's get out of here. In the distance, Kazumi Sei held Wu Gingli tightly in his arms as a princess, and he quickly shouted to the two dragging men. Hurry up. The black mist is coming out. Ah. Yes. Upon hearing this, an Iluan quickly crawled out of Abe Takahiro's warm embrace. Although Abe Takahiro was slightly disappointed, this good man didn't have the habit of forcing others to do that. Instead, he quickly got up and looked straight at an Iluan's back. The two of them stumbled and ran towards the outside of the Sabo family's mansion, while Hiroyoshi Tanabe had already been waiting outside with Ito Cheng. In their witness, this dilapidated haunted house was already shrouded in a thick black mist, with ghosts and demons rampant in the mist, making people shudder. How could this be? What exactly should we do? An Iluan also leaned against Abe Takahiro's shoulder, choking up as he spoke, feeling a chill below. This otaku, who usually doesn't leave the main gate, is now forced to face this kind of situation. His emotions have gradually collapsed, and only Abe Takahiro gently patted his back, which gradually calmed down an Iluan. Let's leave here first. We need a temporary place to live. He Quanqing spoke in a deep voice, gazing at the Swobo family mansion shrouded in black mist. With his current strength, he was unable to confront the evil ghost Jia Yezi. However, if we can use the immortality of black ghosts here to brush points, perhaps we can grow rapidly and even crush all the evil spirits in this game instance. But he lifted his head and looked at the sky of the small town, which was a misty and gloomy cloud. Although the town was not dark, it carried a chilling sense of terror. In the small town, everything was gloomy, and there were not many passers-by on the street. Those passers-by turned a blind eye to the black mist on the mansion of the Zhou family, as if they couldn't see it at all. The buildings on the street all have a dirty feeling, as if the entire town is filled with burial objects unearthed from graves, and even the asphalt pavement beneath them carries a chill. I always feel that the water in this small town is very deep. If I rashly score, will it attract any difficult guys? Looking around the gray streets and alleys, Wakun Cheng took a deep breath and looked at the panicked crowd beside him, speaking. Anyway, let's stay away first, and then you can try to contact your family with your phone to see if we are still in our original world. This. Everyone nodded slightly, but only an Iluan also had a mournful expression. My phone is in my pocket and has already fallen into the haunted house. It's okay, I'll borrow it from you. Don't be polite, of course, we can also play together. On the side, Tian Suahauji said as he took out a brand new Apple 6 from his pocket. An Iluan didn't recognize the ambiguity in his words, but instead opened his phone in tears and began to call his family and friends. However, they are all empty numbers. No, I have empty numbers here too. On the side, Abe Takahiro frowned and said, while the black cat Minamoto Nagasaki had already broken free from Kazumi Cheng's embrace and leaned against the nearby utility pole, desperately pressing the phone buttons, trying to contact her two sisters at home. It's useless, all the phone calls are empty numbers, and text messages cannot be sent. Is that so? He nodded and took out his phone, but with a bitter smile, he took it back. He had just traveled to the world of everyday dramas, and his sister, Kazumi, didn't have a phone, let alone any other friends he knew. There was no one to seek help from, so he could only dial a string of phone numbers at will. However, it is an empty number. Now it seems that there are two possibilities. Listening to the pleasant empty number prompt on the phone, Kazumi Cheng pushed his glasses. Under the cover of the lenses, his dark eyes flickered with suspicion. Either our phone has been modified by the dimensional game, or we have left our original world and arrived at a dangerous horror game instance. Perhaps there is only this small town in this world, and outside of it, everything does not exist. We cannot leave this small town, just like game characters cannot leave the game map. Yes, we are not players off-screen, but characters in the game. We will die. Chapter 4. Immortal Operations, Do Not Imitate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although it's a game, it's not just for fun. Leaning against the lamp post on the street, Hee-kwan spoke calmly. So what should we do? Tian Suahao scratched his head. This renowned GV male lead also has his life and career. Unlike several high school students such as Kazumi Makoto, Tian Suahaoji's current film salary is very high, with millions or even millions of yen for every GV he makes, and he is also a regular at various gay bars. Now, suddenly stepping into this dangerous horror game, this born winner is particularly fearful. Even though he has practiced judo and fitness, his flesh and blood body cannot compete with evil spirits and can only become food for the resentful spirits. I want to go home. Aniluan also crouched on the roadside. He looked at the grey town and couldn't help but shed tears in his eyes, with a look of being about to burst into tears. Unlike typical otaku, Aniluan also has a childhood sweetheart named Irie Zamura with blonde hair and double ponytails, as well as a well-built black and straight senior sister named Shiyu Kashizuki. Although he is not yet a winner in life, he does not want to die in this terrifying game. The other few people also looked as frightened as headless flies, except for Kazumi Cheng, who remained calm. Of course, this is also a matter of course. Call out. In his field of vision, a black mist condensed in the air, transforming into an invisible black ghost. The monster, Black Ghost, formed by the fusion of electromagnetic fields and vitality, has this powerful arm and can easily eliminate most evil spirits. However, the current Black Ghost is still too weak. Upgrade. Hee-kwan silently recited, and a curtain of light appeared in front of him. Player. Wakwin Ching level LV.1, 0/200, Genealogy. Subhuman, EX, Physical Fitness. 117 Spirit. 168 Dimensional Integral. 1800. After a fierce battle just now, the Black Ghost of Kazumi Cheng dispersed more than 10 clones of Kazuko. Each clone of Gei Z is worth 100 dimensional points, and currently has accumulated a total of 1,800 dimensional points, which is more than enough for upgrading. Consume 200 dimensional points and level up to LV.2, consume 300 dimensional points and level up to LV.3, consume 400 dimensional points and level up to LV.4, consume 500 dimensional points and level up to LV.5. After upgrading 4 times in a row, Wakwin Cheng also gained 40 free attribute points, which can be added to both physical and mental attributes. Enhance spiritual attributes. Hee-kwan murmured softly, and the character panel changed accordingly. Player. Wakwin Ching level LV.5, 0/600, Genealogy. Subhuman, EX, Physical Fitness. 117 Spirit. 208 Dimensional Integral. 400. As the 40 points of freedom attribute were added to the spiritual attribute, Kazumi Cheng felt a clear mind and his perceptual ability became more and more acute. He looked at the gray mist in the small town and felt a slight chill. "What are you doing?" On the side, Wu Gingli gripped her pink little phone and lightly touched Kazumi Cheng's arm. Just as he was upgrading and adding points, Kazumi Cheng remained motionless, leaning against the street lamp post, as if he had been possessed by a ghost. Out of goodwill towards her teammate, Wu Gingli lightly bit her silver teeth and leaned over to say softly. Don't worry, classmate Yuan. We can find a way out of here, and if we go missing, our family will definitely report it to the police. Do you expect the police to rescue us?" Upon hearing this, Waquan Cheng glanced at the innocent girl and sighed. Whether it's the recent female ghost or the abilities we have acquired, they are definitely supernatural events. Such incidents are not within the scope of the police station's capabilities. Instead of waiting for those civil servants to find us, let's first find a way to save ourselves. As he spoke, Quan Cheng gestured to the other 6 teammates. "I'm planning to find a place to stay temporarily and also take care of lunch. Do you want to come together?" Listening to the calm tone of Kazumi Makoto, an Iluan, who was still in distress, glanced at each other. Abe Takahiro awkwardly coughed twice and said, "Well, little brother, let's quickly find a taxi or rent a car to leave here. This small town looks really bad no matter what." "Really? But I think it might be more dangerous outside the town." Kazumi Cheng lifted his head and gazed at the distant skyline. After his spiritual attributes had risen to over 200 points, he could clearly feel a chilling aura outside the town. If you can escape from this small town, you can easily complete this game instance, and the dimensional game may be too cheap. I plan to stay here, please feel free to do so. Really? Abe Takahiro scratched his head as he listened to Kazumi's resolute tone. Although he is a helpful and good man, he does not have the courage to sacrifice his life to accompany a gentleman. Just now, he has fulfilled his duty to remind, so there is no need to stay here with Kazumi Cheng and wait for death. So, what about you guys? Abe Takahiro looked at the few people next to him, and Ito Makoto and an Iluan nodded in difficulty, while Hiroyoshi Taso gave him a thumbs up, clearly agreeing with his decision. "We're leaving now, young man. Take care of yourself." Seeing this, Abe Takahiro couldn't persuade him anymore. He looked at Kazumi Shin, who was leaning against the street lamp post with his eyes closed to rest. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say, so he had to take his 3 companions and walk towards the street. Looking at the backs of Abe Takao and the 4 of them, Wu Gingli hesitated and clenched her fists, but still followed suit. This kind girl may still be worried about Waquan Cheng, but unfortunately, this horror movie dungeon world may be a treasure trove that I can't miss. Opening his eyes, in the perception of Quan Cheng, the faint mist in the small town emitted a cold aura. He looked at the 5 teammates who had walked away and let out a slight sigh, but he didn't rush forward to persuade them. It's not necessary, after all, everyone has their own aspirations, and Kazumi Cheng cannot confirm whether there is really danger outside the town, and I don't want to be a nanny for them. As he spoke, Quan Cheng shook his hand, and behind him, the black ghost was guarding him step by step, wary of every corner around him. The skill, Black Ghost, inherent in the Asian bloodline is very powerful, summoning a black spirit body that resembles a withered mummy, wrapped in layers of dirty straps. But unlike the double messenger, the Black Ghost has the intelligence of a beast, and can automatically search for enemies through electromagnetic waves. It can also use some simple weapons, and even after long-term training, the Black Ghost can master human martial arts skills. Especially for the Black Ghost's automatic search for enemies, through the analysis of electromagnetic waves, it can not only target any creature within 100 meters range, but also detect resentful ghosts from a long distance. So, let's start hunting. In this small town filled with energy, there should be many evil spirits for me to hunt. Pushing his glasses, Kazumi Cheng's mouth curved upwards, revealing a hint of mockery. With the Black Ghost as his ultimate weapon, he will not only be limited to game dungeons to protect himself, but also maximize his benefits and hunt down those evil spirits as much as possible. In the eyes of other players, the evil spirits that are considered very dangerous are mostly just a walking point gift package for Kazumi Cheng. This kind of life is what I am pursuing. Before crossing the river, Kazumi Masahiro possessed an inexhaustible wealth through his unique ability to possess absolute European aura. He pursues excitement, enjoys beautiful scenery, delicious food, and beautiful women, but none of them can satisfy his appetite. Indeed, only supernatural powers are the best. Raise your hand and pat the Black Ghost beside you. Under the rough black bandage, there is an extremely powerful force hidden. Nowadays, Kazumi Makoto has 208 basic spiritual attributes, and the strength of the Black Ghost is equivalent to the sum of 2 adults. With a punch, it has at least 200 kilograms of impact, equivalent to the peak boxing champion Tyson. Moreover, I am only at level 5 now. If I can score tens of thousands of points in this game instance, then the Black Ghost can also smash the earth with one punch, right? He Quanching clenched his fist, his face full of eager anticipation. However, before that, let's have lunch and confirm the terrain of the small town. As he murmured to himself, Kazumi Cheng rummaged through his pocket and pulled out 2 1,000 yen banknotes. After crossing over, he replaced the male protagonist Kazumi Masamune in Teacher Iramana. Before Kazumi Masamune crossed over, his parents had already died in an air crash. The insurance company compensated them with a large sum of money, and the Hachuan family originally had a considerable amount of savings. However, due to being underage, the Hachuan family kept this large sum of money in the hands of their aunt Hachuan Jingxiang. However, as a light novelist, the authentic Izumi also has a lot of savings in his hands, which are cheaper than the time-traveling Izumi Cheng. However, only 2,000 yen is definitely not enough to eat. Holding 2 green banknotes in his hand, he Quanching clicked and walked along the streets of the town, looking around at the shops on both sides of the street. He needs a quick way to get rich, in the words of Batman Lord Wayne, which is, the power of money is omnipotent. Creak. Pushing open the glass door of a lottery shop on the street, Wazumi Cheng stepped in. This lottery shop is dirty and quite messy, with only one owner with a crooked mouth and pockmarked face lying on the table playing with a computer. Oh. Customer. Coming to buy lottery tickets at such a young age. The sleazy shop owner lazily yawned and scratched his greasy hair, scrutinizing Wakun Cheng's eyes as if he was looking at a fat sheep. Here are 2,000 yen scrapers. Looking at the sleazy store manager, Wazumi Cheng frowned slightly, but he still slapped 2 green banknotes on the table, and the store manager disdainfully pulled out 20 red cards and threw them in front of Wazumi Cheng. Pa! Holding 20 red scrapers, he Quanching looked at them for a moment, his mouth slightly raised, revealing a playful smile. Now, it's time to perform the European Emperor's trick. Chapter 5. Number 1 player, never use hacks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Scrap lottery, which is very common in both China and Japan. This type of lottery is very cheap and the winning rate is not low, but most of them are small prizes of 50 yen or 100 yen. It is simply wishful thinking to get rich by scraping lottery tickets. However, for European emperors like Kazumi Cheng who have been cheating, problems that can be solved with money are not problems. Come on. Picking up a 100 yen coin, Kazumi Shinzo gently scraped the coating on the lottery ticket, while the sleazy shop owner with a crooked mouth and pockmarked face looked at Kazumi Shinzo with contempt in his eyes. Are you gambling on lottery tickets at such a young age? Growing up is also a waste. He has been a lottery store manager for over a decade and has never seen anyone win a big prize with a scratch. The chance of winning here is less than 1 in a million. Do you want to get rich by buying lottery tickets? That would be too foolish. 1. However, Kazumi Cheng gently scraped open the coating of a lottery ticket and threw it in front of the store manager. 10,000 yen, winning the prize, huh? The shop owner was momentarily bewildered, with a very comical expression on his pockmarked face, his mouth wide open, and his chin convulsing. Did you really win the prize? The second ticket, TSK. He quanching through another lottery ticket and looked at the words on the red card. The shopkeeper covered his heart, and his heart seemed to stop suddenly. 50,000 yen, grand prize, then, there are the third and fourth tickets, both just a small prize of 1,000 yen. How could this be? The shop owner watched as he quanchingly scraped open the lottery tickets one by one. He was bewildered and didn't know what to react to, so he could only watch he quanchingly demonstrate his divine operation. The fifth one, this one is good. He casually placed a red card in front of the store manager, and Kazumi Cheng was not afraid that this guy would snatch the lottery ticket and run away. Behind him, the black ghost was quietly standing, ready to teach this sleazy shop owner a lesson at any time. 2 million yen, first prize, this is the largest award that can be scraped out of this 100 yen scratch, and only a few people win each year. Can we still scrape away the first prize of 2 million yen? Kazumi Cheng murmured softly as he picked up a 100 yen coin and scraped open a few scrape music pieces one after another. 1, 2, 3 after that, all the scraped yuan tickets were the first prize of 2 million yen, a total of 6 tickets, totaling 12 million yen. Watching this scene, the lottery shop owner was already stunned. He looked at the pile of lottery tickets piled up in front of He Quancheng and couldn't help but murmur. How could this be? How could this be? How could this be? Ah! However, this is reality, hurry up and exchange money. Kazumi Cheng's face remained calm, and for him, this was just a basic operation. Even the koi in the Weibo lottery are completely inferior to him in the state of fully open European atmosphere. In the state of European Chi fully open, Kazumi Masahiro can draw treasures with a probability of 1 in a million, and can also play mahjong in a 1.1 tour, making it unparalleled among the Manchu soldiers. You must be a scammer. What means did you use? Immediately after, the lottery shop owner shouted out loud, and Kazumi Cheng pointed to the code coding behind the lottery and said to the shop owner. You can use the computer to check if these lottery tickets are real. I don't believe it. You must have tricked me. I want to call the police, yes, call the police. The sleazy lottery shop owner has now shown madness on his face, while Kazumi Cheng's lips curled up, showing a look of knowing so. He is well aware that playing this type of lottery winning operation will definitely be misunderstood by the shop owner as using means. However, now that he has mastered the power, he is not afraid that the shopkeeper will eat his words. Bang! A tremendous force came from the owner's neck, and then he suddenly rose up, hitting his head against the roof. The neck was gripped by an invisible palm, and a piercing pain from above made the shopkeeper regain his sanity. He hung in the air, looking at the young man standing with hands behind his back, and couldn't help but tremble with fear. Ghost! Ghost! You're a wicked ghost. No, you're mistaken. Kazumi Cheng shrugged as he looked at the man with an ugly and lewd face and sneered, you can treat me like a yin-yang master, Taoist, or spiritual medium master, but I'm not one of those despicable ghosts. Yes. Yes. The shop owner was choked and his face had turned brown from lack of oxygen. With a plop, he was thrown to the ground by the black ghost. Sir, Master Yin and Yang. Please spare your life. Please spare your life. The lewd shop owner who was just very aggressive now has a look of fear on his face. In this game instance where demons and monsters abound, the yin-yang master who possesses the ability to subdue demons and subdue demons is not something that ordinary people like him can provoke. So, let's exchange these lottery tickets first. He Quanching spoke calmly, while the sleazy store manager pleaded with a tearful tone. No way, sir, please spare me. I don't have that much money here compared to Ben. Really. He looked at the man with tears and a runny nose and asked sincerely, "How much money can you pay now?" The shop owner paused slightly, quickly opened the drawer, and handed several stacks of Japanese yen inside with both hands. "Sir, I only have over 500,000 yen in my store. There is no bank in this town, and there is no card reader in the store. Please spare me." "Is that right?" Upon hearing this, Cheng sighed, confirming that he might not be able to extract any more oil or water from this guy. Helpless, he had no choice but to put away the small stack of green Fukuzawa Yukichi 10,000 yuan banknotes, casually dropped a 2 million yen scratch lottery ticket, put away the rest of the lottery tickets, and glanced at the obscene shop owner, saying, "Can you help me withdraw the remaining Japanese yen from this lottery ticket and leave it in the store for me to pick it up?" Kazumi Cheng paused slightly and said, 100,000 yen inside is your tip. Don't try any tricks, otherwise. Yes, Master Yin and Yang. Even if I smash the pot and sell iron, I will definitely raise enough money. The sleazy shop owner spoke while lying on the ground kowtowing, looking like a frightened bird. For these powerless mortals, it is absolutely irresistible for someone like Kazumi Cheng, who can take life or death from him. With a slight nod, Kazumi Cheng ignored this sleazy and ugly guy. He separated the stack of 10,000 yuan bills and put them in his clothes pocket, then swaggered away from the lottery store. Leave behind the sleazy middle-aged shopkeeper, looking at the empty drawer and wanting to cry without tears. That robber. He scolded when he saw that Kazumi had already walked away, wanting to take out his phone and report to the police station. However, he hesitated for a moment when he thought of the powerful ability of Kazumi Shinzo, and then opened his computer to check the number on the lottery ticket. Looking at the data displayed on the computer web page, the shop owner had a chilling expression on his face. He pinched the red piece of paper, bit his lips in terror, and said incredulously, "Surprisingly. Did you really win the prize? Are you joking? It must be a cover-up. It must be that yin-yang master's illusion on me. No, I need to find a psychic to exorcise the demons." After a moment, Kazumi Cheng walked alone on the streets of the small town. Although this small town is grey and gloomy, it carries a gloomy feeling. Most of the passers-by on the street are also elderly people, which always gives people a faint sense of gloom. But in the small town, everything is complete, from the charming hotels facing the street to the exquisite Chinese restaurants. He even encountered a gangster's entrance and a traditional shop hanging red lanterns. Before eating, do some warm-up exercises first. As he Quanqing spoke, behind him, a black ghost quietly suspended. It lifted its hand and the bandage wrapped around its arm gently floated up, pointing straight towards a deep alley in the distance. "Come on." The corners of his mouth lifted, and a hint of mockery appeared on Kazumi Cheng's face. He pushed his glasses, which reflected the dim sunlight. Then, without hesitation, walked towards the alley. Pap. 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 The sound of collisions echoed deep in the alley, of course, not the sound of doing some beloved piston movements, but the sound of hitting a ball. The alley was very dim, with 3 or 4-story houses on both sides. He Quanqing walked calmly forward, and this alley seemed to have an endless length, making it impossible for him to reach the end. Gulu. A sphere rolled from the depths of the alley and collided with Kazumi Cheng's foot. This is. He bent down and gently picked up the sphere, which was the head of a child. Little brother. The little girl's head opened its mouth, and crimson blood spilled down. Have you found my body? Feeling the faint wetness in his arms, Cheng's mouth twitched slightly as he stared at the little girl's head. In the distance, there was also the sound of pattering footsteps. A headless little body, holding a sharp chopping axe, walked towards him slowly and quickly. Little brother, have you found my body? The little girl in her arms was still spewing blood from her head, and the sticky blood was as piercing as ice, making Wazumi Ching feel numb all over. However, this is not the point. The headless little girl's body was already wielding a sharp chopping axe, fiercely chopping at the crotch of Hequancheng. Fuck your mother. Looking at the target of the little girl's axe, Kazumi Ching could no longer bear it. Behind him, the black ghost rushed forward like a cheetah and punched the little girl's collarbone. Then, the headless body of the little girl rolled and collided like a volleyball in this dark alley, and the head of the girl in Waquan Cheng's arms spewed out a mouthful of foul-smelling blood. My clothes, ah ah. Feeling the shirt and casual pants gradually turning red with blood, Kazumi Ching roared angrily as he casually threw out the head of the little girl in his arms, and the black ghost rushed up in response, waving a fist at the head in mid-air. No barrier, no barrier, no barrier, no barrier, no barrier. In an instant, the little girl's head was smashed against the wall, and black steel fists, like pile drivers, fiercely hit the girl's face, flattening, smashing, flattening, and shattering it with a bang. Blood splattered in the alley. Chapter 6. So, what is the cost? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Eliminating demons and guarding the way often comes at a cost. Standing in the dark alley, Waquan Cheng stood quietly. His loose shirt was stained with crimson blood, and his light brown casual pants were completely soaked. Tasting the faint chill in the blood stain, Hequancheng shivered and helplessly rose. Wearing blood clothes while wandering the streets, you will definitely be shot dead as a terrorist, right? Now, his appearance is not to be praised. Fresh red blood stains are scattered on his body, and even his face has a faint blood stain, making him look like a brutal murderer who has just killed dozens of people. And the alley was also bloody, and the headless little loli who had just come out scared had turned into a puddle of meat. Both the flying head and the headless body turned into scum under the strong beating of the black ghost. Only the small axe still fell to the ground, emitting a faint glow. No. He suddenly thought of something and bent down to grab the small axe, a curtain of light blooming in front of him. Headless Ghost's broken head axe, type. Short-handled hand axe, flying axe. Quality. E.level power. 15 Introduction. This thing is just as short and small as your one. Binding consumes 100 dimensional points. After binding, it can be placed in system space, equipped, and traded. Isn't this too spicy chicken? He shook the small axe in his hand and shrugged his shoulders. The black ghost can use human weapons and equipment, but this small axe is completely different from the adult size of the black ghost, and holding it in hand is like a toy. Moreover, using a small axe to chop people is definitely not as satisfying as using a fist, Euler. However, it seems that the equipment can be put away. Hequancheng held on to this small axe, and a curtain of light bloomed once again. Is this prop bound? Bind it. At least it's the first piece of equipment that I've developed myself. Although it doesn't have practical value, at least it has commemorative significance. However, it seems that I have forgotten something. Hequancheng spoke softly, and in front of him, the black ghost was quietly floating. Immediately afterwards, he raised his hand and pointed to the end of the dark alley, while the black ghost transformed into a dark phantom and rushed over in an instant. There, amidst a pile of scattered wood, lies a decaying little girl's skeleton. Bang bang bang. The steel fist of the black ghost swung more than 10 times per second at a speed far exceeding that of humans, like a pile driver, bombarding the pile of wood. In an instant, the shattered wood debris and the little girl's bones were smashed together into small pancakes. Kill the headless grudge spirit and earn 500 dimensional points. Sure enough, this little girl is much stronger than the previous Ga Yezi clone. Standing in the dark alley, Waquan Cheng glanced at the pile of broken wood and bones. He pursed his lips, with a hint of mockery on his face. Whether it's this headless little girl or the previous incarnation of Kayako, they pose no threat to Kazumi-sei. With an absolute immortality and a powerful and unparalleled black ghost, he is almost invincible in this game instance. Now, it's time to have a meal, but before the meal. Glancing at the blood stains on his body, Wazumi Cheng grabbed the corners of his clothes with both hands, flipped them over with force, took off his shirt, and then took off his casual pants. So he stood in the alley and casually snapped his fingers. Bang! A muffled sound echoed through the alley, and the black ghost punched open a wall in the alley. In this wall, there is a neatly tidied residential bedroom. The entire residential area was empty, and Kazumi Cheng walked in casually. He dug out a clean set of men's clothing from the wardrobe here and neatly put it on. His figure is quite good, neither fat nor thin, and he can wear most of his clothes. After changing into a new pair, Wazumi Cheng glanced at the wall that had been blasted open and casually took out a 2 million yuan scratch lottery ticket from his pocket, throwing it into the living room of this house as a gift. Although he may come uninvited, Kazumi Cheng is still very polite. Let's have a meal first, and then consider buying clothes or something like that. As he spoke, Quan-ching walked out of the house with a black ghost. In his eyes, this dangerous dimensional game was as easy and simple as a field trip. At the same time, in the alley, a hunting dog was lying on the shirt that Kazumi Cheng had taken off, gently sniffing. Behind this hunting dog stands a stunning woman. Have a slice of snowflake beef, 10 ripe, yes, you heard it right, 10 ripe. In a high-end Wagyu restaurant, Quan-ching sat in front of the iron plate at the bar and said to the bewildered chef. I haven't had a good appetite lately, and 10 ripe beef is more to my taste. This. The chef who had studied at the Michelin restaurant was stunned and didn't know how to respond to the young man. Every gentleman and lady who comes to eat high-priced beef, in order to enhance the taste of the beef, only eats 5 or 6 ripe, or even 3 or 4 ripe. This is still his first time encountering a strange creature who eats 10 ripe in cow. Well, by the way, 2 more portions and give me 5 pounds of beef. As he listened to Quan-ching's order, the chef threw the tool for frying beef directly onto the iron plate and said angrily to Quan-ching. Sir. Please don't insult my career. Well, I won't insult you, said Quan-ching, sitting in front of the iron plate with a smile. He took out a thick stack of fused Yuji 10,000 yuan banknotes from his pocket, took out half of them, and handed them to this very brave chef. 200,000 yen, 5 pounds of beef, 10 ripe. Big brother. Wrap it around me. The chef, who demonstrated the law of true fragrance through his actions, quickly took out the most expensive snowflake beef from the fresh-keeping freezer, then quickly cut it into thick slices. He used a sharp technique to melt the butter, chopped onions for decoration, and cooked the steak for Quan-ching. In such a remote town, the sales of steak at the Hinyo restaurant are very poor. When encountering wealthy individuals like Quan-ching who do not care about their costs, chefs will certainly not let it go. 200,000 yen. Although not worth mentioning in Michelin restaurants in Tokyo, in such a small town, this restaurant has already had several months of revenue. How fragrant. Take a breath, brother. While frying the steak, the chef with a white high hat mixed the vegetable salad and respectfully placed it in front of Wazumi Cheng. This steak restaurant is located on the commercial street in the center of the town. Although there are many pedestrians on this commercial street, there is always a sense of gloom, which makes Quan-ching very uncomfortable. But the decoration in the restaurant is very warm, with warm yellow chandeliers and a simple decoration style, which temporarily washed away the negative emotions on Quan-ching's body. Unfortunately, it is already around 2 noon. The Western restaurant is closing soon. There are no more guests in the restaurant except for Quan-ching. Sniffing at the high-quality butter filling the air, Kazumi-sei picked up a prepared knife and fork, poked a red virgin fruit, and chewed on the sweet and sour juice in the small tomato. Creak. At the same time, the door of the Western restaurant was gently pushed open, and a woman wearing an old lady's suit and black silk stockings slowly walked along with a hunting dog. She has a delicate appearance, with a tear mold capturing all living beings under her beautiful eyes, and a demonic charm on her body that makes people involuntarily attracted to her. The chef, who had just been busy, was stunned when he saw this woman. The beef on the iron plate was sizzling, emitting a faint burnt smell. "Hey, the beef is burnt." Quanching was eating the holy maiden fruit and casually reminded, but the chef stared at the woman as if lost in soul, stunned like a puppet whose soul had been taken away. "Can I sit here, little brother?" The artificial voice rang out from behind, and Kazumi Cheng couldn't help but tremble, with goosebumps all over his body. "Do you know?" But then, a refreshing sensation swept through his mind, freeing him from this state of loss and despair. He slowly turned around and looked at the beautiful woman, saying calmly, "I hate people calling me little brother the most." Bang bang bang. In the next moment, the black ghost rushed forward and punched the woman's face. The dark steel fists were like a pile driver, hitting every corner of the woman's body. Euler 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 Euler. A few seconds later, the woman who was hit by Euler's meal on the wall slowly slid down from the wall. Her blood spilled over the Western restaurant, but it also had a captivating aroma that made people want to lie on the ground and suck on the sweet blood. The woman had fallen to the ground in an immature manner, and the chef who had just been controlled by this woman was also crouching in a daze, with a look of dementia. It is obvious that this woman is also a dangerous demon. "TSK, I just want to have a good meal." Quanching looked around and saw that there was only one steak master in this Western restaurant. The other chefs should have already finished work. The steak on the iron plate emitted a faint burnt smell, while Cheng flipped over the bar and used a small shovel on the iron plate to flip the steak, cutting it into small pieces. He also found a bottle of cumin powder and chili noodles under the bar and sprinkled them on top 3 times, 5 times, and 2 times. A luxurious meal of Wagyu beef turned into a simple roadside barbecue stall. Of course, the delicious meat of Wagyu beef exploded with another kind of beauty under the violence of Cheng. Chewing on small pieces of beef, the shredded meat burst in his mouth, and the fragrant meat juice left a lingering fragrance in Cheng's mouth. On the other side, the woman who had been beaten up to an unnatural shape was gradually getting up from the ground. Her injuries were rapidly subsiding, but her face turned pale and she looked at the blood splattering on the ground with fear. In the blood, things like eggs were slowly condensing. Even though the woman trampled on them with her feet, these eggs were still growing rapidly. "No, don't." She mourned, and the hunting dog she was holding in her hand was also attracted and devoured by eggs. Sitting on the other side of the bar, Kawakami Cheng threw the poor chef under the bar. He stir-fried the plump Wagyu while enjoying a freshly opened bottle of black beer, feeling as happy as a fairy. As he watched the old god eating grilled meat and drinking beer, Kazumi Makoto was just walked in when he was howled by the old fist-filled Kawakami Tomoe. "Quick! I command you. Kill these eggs. Aren't those eggs also a part of you?" Sitting on the swivel chair on the other side of the bar, Kazumi Cheng looked at this poor guy and sneered. "Why, don't you call me little brother now?" Chapter 7. Its name is Kawakami Tomoe. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kawakami Tomoe is from the Tomoe series by horror manga artist Runji Ito. This woman is not as powerful as those evil spirits. On the contrary, her physical fitness is no different from that of a normal person. However, compared to those evil spirits who are prone to killing, the essence of Fujian is even more terrifying. This woman with a very good figure possesses an irresistible magical charm that ordinary people cannot resist. Whether men, women, or beasts, they will all sink under her charm and become her servants. Then, like bees pollinating flowers, those poor people would kill Fujian and dismember him under her control, throwing his limbs and arms everywhere. Fujian's second ability is similar to the asexual reproduction of plants. Even a drop of blood shed by her will quickly grow into the second Fujian after receiving sufficient nutrition, and have the same ability as her body. Magic Charm, Splitting Ability, and Absolute Immortality. These three special abilities of Fujian are enough to enable her to destroy a city and even human civilization with her own strength. However, this ability has two flaws. Kazumi Cheng sat on the swivel chair on the other side of the bar, cutting through the fatty grilled steak with a sharp silver knife. A precious 5-pound and cow, under his torment, has turned into a sumptuous steak, sprinkled with unsmoothed cumin powder and chili noodles. Of course, the taste is still good. The juice was overflowing in Kazumi Cheng's mouth, as he chewed on the steak and looked at Kawakami Tomoe, who was desperately trying to destroy the egg. The individuals you produce through asexual reproduction will harbor hatred towards their true selves, and may even resort to killing each other at all costs. And your charm ability can only affect ordinary people. As long as you increase your basic spiritual attributes to 200 or above, you can be exempted from your charm control. Chewing on the plump and juicy wagyu, picking up a bottle of German black beer, and drinking tons of beer with sincerity, Kazumi openly admires the figure of Tomoe Kawakami. Perhaps he can also use Fujian to achieve his goals. No. He shook his head and shook off this thought. Even though he had a much higher spiritual attribute and was exempt from Kawakami Tomoe's seductive ability, if he continued to follow her, he would still be influenced by her abilities and inevitably become her subordinate. That would be too embarrassing. I command you. Burn them quickly. Please. In the restaurant, Fujian Kawakami watched as the eggs continued to expand, with a hint of fear on her face. She could only use her high heels to step on the eggs repeatedly, crushing them. However, this is of no use at all. These eggs are exactly the fission cells of Kawakami Tomoe, and as long as they have sufficient nutrition, they can rapidly grow into the new Kawakami Tomoe. Upon seeing this, Kazumi Cheng pursed his lips and said with a teasing tone, "Order me. While they haven't developed yet, why don't you eat them first?" Fujian mourned, her stunning face twisted and fierce, but she still bent down, grabbed a crimson egg, swallowed it directly in her mouth, and bit it. Nausea. Seeing this, Kazumi Cheng, who was eating steak, couldn't bear it anymore. He lifted his hand directly, and the black ghost standing beside him also rushed out in response. Euler. Bang. Kawakami Tomoe, who was biting at those eggs, was punched by a black ghost and her ribs and breasts were shattered. She then spat out a mouthful of old blood and spilled it on the floor of the restaurant. She lamented, watching the tiny and vibrant eggs of Fujian in the bloodstains gradually growing. And Kazumi Cheng picked up the lunchbox behind the bar, packed the grilled steak he had cooked, and took it away. He also packed a bag of vegetable salad and handed it to the black ghost standing quietly beside him. "What am I? Don't be so disgusting, monster," he said with disdain. What he detested the most was this monster that could distort the thoughts of others. Listening to Kazumi Cheng's scolding, Kawakami Fujian not only did not have anger, but also showed a strange expression, similar to gratitude, but also seemed particularly surprised. Upon seeing this, Kazumi Cheng couldn't help but take a step back. Does this guy have a masochistic obsession? However, it is not that Kawakami Tomoe's ability will make all living beings involuntarily attracted by her charm and willing to be controlled by her. However, Kazumi Cheng is completely different. He not only ignored the charm of Kawakami Tomoe and was not influenced by this woman, but also could speak up and scold her. This may be a bit novel for Tomoe Kawakami, but it's just a novelty. She can't be considered a human, let alone have human feelings. Pada. He Quanching squatted down and grabbed a nauseating egg of Fujian, but at that moment, a curtain of light opened up in front of him. Fujian egg, incubating, type. Biological materials, consumables. Quality. B.level introduction. It looks disgusting, but feels even more disgusting to the touch. Binding consumes 100,000 dimensional points. After binding, it can be placed in system space, equipped, and traded. System prompt. After the Kawakami Tomoe split body matures, this item will self-destruct and the split body is not under the control of the game player. Use with caution. It's so expensive. Weighing the egg of Fujiang in his hand, Kazumi Ching sighed. He had intended to bring this thing out of the dimensional game and try to raise a pile of Fujiang to watch the house guard and bite people. Now it seems unlikely. Since that's the case, Pa. He slapped Kawakami Fujio casually and pointed to the crimson Fujio eggs on the ground, gesturing. Pack them all together. How dare you command me? Bang. Faced with the rebellion of Tomo Kawakami, Kazumi Masahiro let the black ghost carrying the vegetables directly punch her and make her fall onto the wall to calm down. Fast, otherwise. Yes. With a strange excitement on her face, Fujiang Kawakami quickly got up. She had multiple fractures on her body, but with her strong self-healing ability, she was quickly recovering. Then, using a nearby tablecloth, she picked up the eggs of Fujiang from the wooden floor and held them together. Done. Done. She was about to give a strong command to Quan Cheng, but the pain in her lower abdomen made her come to her senses and dare not disobey him again. Well, it seems you're not a waste who remembers to eat or fight. Kazumi Makoto walked over and pulled Kawakami Fujio's hair, then took the tablecloth from her hand. Feeling the piercing pain on her head, Fujiang was about to cry without tears. Her invincible charm was enough to control the residents of the entire town, but now, this monster, Kazumi Cheng, can resist her charm. Moreover, this guy also has strong power. She stared blankly at the air in the restaurant, feeling clearly that there should be a humanoid creature standing in the air, repeatedly punching her hard. But she couldn't see that guy at all, like a transparent person, and couldn't even react when she hit him. Pa Ji. He casually placed a table of Fujiang eggs on a plate, and together with the plate, he Quanching placed these eggs in the restaurant's oven. This is the old-fashioned oven that makes a fire. He Quanching first puts a stack of firewood and hay, sprinkles solid alcohol, and finally puts the eggs of Fujiang. He then stacks a layer of firewood and hay, and even a broken newspaper for lighting the fire. Picking up a match, under the expectant gaze of Tomo Kawakami, Kazumi Sei popped out the match, and the burning match traced a beautiful arc falling to the ground. Poochie. Fujiang laughed out loud. TSK, my hands are shaking. He Quanching squatted down, picked up the extinguished match and threw it into the trash can. Then he lit another match and lit the stove. Done. Looking at the blazing stove and smelling the disgusting smell of being burnt, Kazumi Shin quickly walked out of the restaurant. On the side, the black ghost was carrying takeout from Wazumi Shin, with a bag of grilled steak and vegetable salad suspended in the air, making it feel very discordant and comical. Don't leave. Watching Kawakami Shinzo leave quickly, Kawakami Tomoe squatted down, broke the two heels of his high heels, and then quickly chased after him. For her, capturing prey like Kazumi Cheng is the only way to fill her wounded self-esteem. To satisfy her endless possessiveness. Fujiang, we have found the target. However, no one noticed that in the restaurant, the steak chef, who had been awakened by the thick smoke, quickly got up and used the nearby fire extinguisher to extinguish the burning stove. Inside, there are also several eggs of Fujiang that are intact meanwhile, located on the street side of the town. Abe Takahiro and the five of them wandered aimlessly in this small town after bidding farewell to Kazumi Shinzo. They want to find a taxi and take it directly back to their city, but in this isolated small town, not to mention taxis, there isn't even a motorcycle for soliciting customers. I found a car rental shop. Shigeru Ito suddenly shouted, pointing to a small shop on the street with a cheerful expression on his face, while Abe Takahiro sighed dejectedly. Well, go ask them if they can swipe their cards. Tut. The restaurant can't swipe credit cards in this wretched place, which is really backward. The GV master Tian Suhoer mocked. This handsome and burly actor acted as a roast worker all the way, and had to spray everything first to cover up his fear with dirty words. Can we still go back? At the end of the team, Aniluan, who was already exhausted, was walking along with a few people with trembling legs. Beside him, Wu Gengli also felt a bit weak. These two otaku men and women rarely exercise, and their physical fitness is not even as good as Ito Cheng. They can only fall at the back of the team and barely follow the first three people. There's no way, they don't have any money on them, they're not old enough to apply for credit cards, they don't have money, so of course they don't speak hard. After a moment, a few people walked out of the rental car in a daze. This garbage dump, I can't even swipe my card. Tian Soa Haoji kicked the fire hydrant on the street, and Abe Gauha also looked embarrassed. If you want to rent a car, at least you need to pay a huge deposit, and they only have 2,000 or 3,000 yen of change with them. If they can't afford the deposit, they won't be able to rent a car. That. At the end of the team, Aniluan also raised her hand and said timidly, looking like an obedient baby. Why don't we wait in the town for 7 days? Maybe Brother Hachuan is right. Is there really danger outside the town? Everyone was dumbfounded, but then Abe Takahiro and Tian Suahao suddenly stared into the distance, their bodies suddenly tensed. Now, the sun is slowly setting, which is the legendary moment of encountering demons in Japan. In the direction of the sun setting, under the afterglow of the sunlight, a tall figure is slowly approaching. She has a great figure and is wearing a mask, just holding a pair of rusty scissors in his hand. Chapter 8. The Fist Woman. Take it away with a wave. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dusk is the moment of sealing off demons. A tall and graceful figure was standing in the afterglow of the sunset, walking towards Abe Taka and the others. The woman held a wide and long pair of scissors in her hand, with crimson rust on them. Pada. The footsteps gradually approached, and at some point, the street was empty. What is that? Wu Gengli, who fell at the end of the team, stared at the woman in a daze. She slowly took steps, and a cold breath wrapped around the few people, making them unable to escape. They could only watch her walk step by step. Little sister. A hoarse voice came from under a pure white mask. Am I pretty? She held the sharp scissors and gently leaned towards the unarmed 5-watch glass. Ru. Wu Gengli, immersed in fear, trembled lightly all over her body. At the same time, a burly figure rushed out from behind her. Bang! A hard punch hit the woman's face. Float your mother's criticism. Tian Soa Haoji, the beast ancestor of the GV world, is now showcasing his masculine charm. He was wearing a black leather jacket, and his fists as big as a clay pot smashed down at the woman's face. However, the chill invaded his body from his fist, causing his movements to gradually slow down. Do you think I'm pretty? The hoarse voice rang out again, the woman wearing a mask, her head tilted to one side, and her neck bone had already been shattered by the heavy punch from Hiroshi Tasso. However, her head only slightly tilted and then straightened again. Then, holding scissors, he stabbed at Tian Suahao, who was controlled by the cold ghost aura. Come on, let you become as beautiful as me. The mask fell silently, leaving a nauseating scar on the tall woman's face. The corners of her mouth were cut open, her blood-red gums exposed, and faint blood stains spilled from her mouth. Against the backdrop of the knife marks at the corner of his mouth, that pretty face appeared particularly fierce and terrifying. Faced with this face, Hiroyoshi Tasso, who had just shown his masculine charm, had now lost the courage to resist. Yila. The sharp scissors did not pierce Hiroshi Tian's face, but instead ran across his chest. Nevertheless, the tough leather jacket was easily cut open, along with the shirt inside and Hiroshi Tian's skin, by this pair of scissors. Ah! One arm gripped the back of Hiroyoshi Tian's neck and pulled him backwards, allowing him to avoid the deadly scissor cut just now. Good man, Abe Takawa. This fag from the daily anime, now has long and soft limbs, and extremely agile all over. Rubber fruit abilities, this is the initial reward he received. Just now, he used his extended rubber arm to grab Hiroyoshi Tian's neck and push him back, saving him from danger. What a damn thing. Beast ancestor Tian Suahao raised his hand and lightly touched the ferocious bloodstain on his chest. A burning pain came from the wound on his chest, and not only that, he also felt a faint sense of numbness and coldness from the wound, as if soaked in ghost energy, feeling a bit weak all over. Be careful. As Abe Takahiro rushed forward, Tian Suahao quickly reminded him, and Abe Takahiro's fist had already circled in mid-air and hit the cracked woman's face. Bang! With a heavy muffled sound, the cracked woman's head was directly shattered, her head tilted behind her, and her body suddenly shook and tilted backwards. But her arm, like a puppet being moved by a puppet master, cut the blade of the scissors onto Abe Takahiro's arm in a posture that goes against ergonomics. Yila! A bloodstain appeared on Abe Takahiro's rubber arm. Ah ah ah. The good man Abe Takahiro let out a pig-like howl, and his rubber arms were rapidly retracting, his face turning pale. After becoming a rubber fruit expert, Abe Takahiro developed strong resistance to blunt objects, and even if a truck collided with him, it could not cause fatal damage. But the damage caused to him by any sharp weapon will be even more severe, and every time he uses the ability of the rubber fruit, the wound will tear again. The slender arm shrank back, and a few centimeters long blade overflowed with blood. It was Abe Takahiro's artery that spewed out blood stains on Ito Shinzo, making the young top student's face turn pale. In an instant, our two capable adults were defeated, and Ito Ching couldn't help but turn around and quickly wanted to turn around and run. And an Iluan was even more unbearable than him. The bespectacled otaku was already sitting on the ground, with a pale yellow liquid spilled on the ground, as if he was scared out of control. However, Abe Takahiro was also tough. The man tightly covered the wound with his other hand, while Hiroyoshi Tanaka stood in front of him. The two fags supported each other, although frightened, they still stared at the cracked woman with fierce eyes. And the cracked woman seemed to have little interest in these two fags. Gabba. The cracked woman's head was snapped back into place by her, and with a creaking sound, her head had returned to its original position, and the shattered neck bone seemed to be completely undamaged. Then, holding heavy scissors, she walked towards Wu Gingli, who was standing still in place. Am I beautiful? The hoarse voice echoed in the dim yellow sunset, and the passers-by on the street were nowhere to be seen. Only these few game players were watching the gradually approaching cracked woman in terror. Just a weak and strange thing, leaving them powerless to fight back, don't. Looking at the slowly piercing scissors, Wu Gingli slowly retreated back. She accidentally fell to the ground, her delicate face full of fear, and her pupils narrowed into a small dot. Am I pretty? The cracked woman's mouth dripped with a foul smell of blood, spilling onto the delicate glass dress at 5 o'clock. She was already within reach, and the scissors were pressed against Wu Gingli's pretty face. Now, Wu Gingli no longer had the arrogance of a second illness, only instinctive fear. Anyone can do it, anyone can. She looked at Abe Takahiro and Tian Suaji to the side, but these two strong men were silently retreating. The blood spilled from Abe Takahiro's arms had already soaked his clothes. No one can save her, and no one can survive, Pada. The crisp sound of footsteps sounded. In the distance, under the afterglow of the sunset, a figure is walking slowly towards this place with light and agile steps. Is that right here? He, Waquan Cheng, was holding a 500 milliliters bottle of Feijai happy water in his hand, sipping sweet cola while scrutinizing the cracked woman who was squatting on the ground and about to kill Wu Gingli. Call out. As if sensing something, the cracked woman suddenly turned her head and stared fixedly at the step-by-step of Waquan Cheng. Behind Kazumi Cheng, a stunning figure was hurriedly running barefoot, carrying tattered high heels. Lord Hichuan. Mr. Hichuan. Brother Hichuan. Don't leave me. Get lost to me. In the next moment, under the bewildered gaze of everyone, the tall and beautiful barefoot woman was fiercely smashed on her face by an invisible force, her exquisite makeup and beauty instantly squeezed together. She rose into the air and was hit in the air for 2 or 3 seconds before falling to the ground with a loud bang, forming a large figure and gently convulsing on the ground. Don't bother me, lick the dog. As he Quanching spoke, he threw his finished cola bottle into the trash can. Behind him, an invisible black ghost was quietly hovering. On its arm, a bandage slowly floated up, pointing straight towards the direction of the cracked woman in the distance. Great, I finally found it. The corners of his mouth lifted, and a joyful smile appeared on Kazumi Cheng's face, as if he had encountered a famous food restaurant hidden in the alley instead of a terrifying urban fantasy. Desire, longing, that extreme emotion made even the cracked woman tremble lightly, and in her perception, an irresistible force was locking onto her. The second one. He Quanching didn't even look at his embarrassed teammates, but pointed to the cracked woman who was half squatting on the ground, and smiled lightly at the corner of his mouth. Let me see, how many dimensional integrals can you value? Roar. The cracked woman opened her big mouth, not the human mouth, but rows and rows of teeth, like crocodiles or lampreys. She ignored the nearby 5 o'clock glass and instead waved her scissors, bouncing up from a squatting position and charging straight towards Kazumi Cheng in the distance. On the rusty scissors, a terrifying mist of blood rose up, and the corrosive ghost aura seemed like a sickle, harvesting the lives of mortals. However, this concludes. You're already dead. He Quanching said in a deep voice, and the invisible black ghost also stuck in front of the cracked woman. And then, Euler. Bang 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 bang. The dark steel fist roared past like a storm, hitting the cracked woman more than 10 times per second like a pile driver. The cracked woman was thrown backwards, and the black ghost followed closely behind, punching her collarbone and head. In an instant, her ferocious head shattered like a broken ceramic piece in front of everyone, and her body, like a craft made of plaster, shattered into pieces in the air and then exploded into pale smoke. That was the ghostly aura, the purest power of fear, but with just a punch from the black ghost, this precious ghostly aura drifted into the air and was completely eliminated. Pada. Sharp large scissors fell to the ground, and a curtain of light was also displayed in front of Kazumi Cheng. Kill the cracked woman and earn 500 dimensional points. Tisk, it's really worthless. Stepping on the debris formed by the cracked woman, Kazumi Cheng casually belittled this strange thing. He crouched down, picked up the sharp pair of scissors, and a noticeable displeasure appeared on his face. Big scissors for cleft women, type. Short-handled sharp tool, long scissors. Quality. E.level power. 20 Introduction. This thing, maybe you can cut your thing short. Binding consumes 100 dimensional points. After binding, it can be placed in system space, equipped, and traded. Another bunch of trash. He Quanching lifted his head and looked at the disheveled teammates. The corner of his mouth lifted, revealing a gentle smile. Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Chapter 9. Run after teasing, it's really exciting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Pada. The sound of light footsteps echoed on the open street. With the death of the cracked woman, the gloomy atmosphere on this street gradually dissipated, and under the dim yellow sunlight, it gradually shone with vitality. Watching the young man gradually approaching, Abe Takahiro clutching his wound, and Hiroshi Tanaka hugging Abe, both instinctively retreated backwards in embarrassment. They couldn't see the black ghost, they could only see the mischievous cracked woman who had just appeared, instantly disintegrating in front of Kazumi Cheng, turning into a pile of broken debris. Even the sharp long scissors became Kazumi Cheng's spoils of war. What's going on? Looking at these 4 teammates, he Quanching playfully smiled and said. Can't you recognize me after only a whole afternoon of absence? Brother Hachuan. Sob. An Iluan, lying on the ground, also cried bitterly. He was wearing white shorts that had been soaked by the sparkling yellow liquid, and now he looked extremely embarrassed. Of course, this is also natural. He was already a staunch otaku, and when suddenly faced with a ferocious demon, he couldn't muster any courage to resist or escape. An classmate. Quanqing looked at the bespectacled otaku lying on the ground, covered in yellow liquid, and said helplessly, "You better get up first and tidy up your appearance." Upon hearing this, the other few people also looked over, causing an Iluan, who had just been lying on the ground and feeling moved, to show a look of shame. He smiled awkwardly and tried to get up with his hands, but his whole body became weak and he fell back to the ground. However, at this moment, Abe Takahiro walked over, and the wound on his right arm was tightly wrapped in a layer of leather jacket fabric. He grabbed an Iluan's palm with his left hand and encouraged him with a passionate tone. "Get up. You're a man." "Yes. Brother Abe." An Iluan also nodded suddenly, then supported Abe Takahiro's palm and slowly stood up. "Pa-gee. My legs were numb again and I sat on the ground." Looking at an Iluan's pitiful expression, Quanqing helplessly helped his forehead. Of course, this is also very normal. The majority of the protagonists in the daily harem scenes are very asaxi, and the so-called asaxi can be translated as gentle. This kind of gentleness, from another perspective, is cowardice. Unlike social figures such as Abe Takahiro and Hiroyoshi Tanaka, an Iluan is clearly too fragile. Ru. Immediately afterwards, Kazumi Cheng felt a slight tightness under his feet. Underneath him, Wu Gingli tugged at his pants legs, with pleading in her watery and large eyes, and a tear mole at the corner of her eye making her appear charming. But unlike Fujian Kawakami, the charm of Wugen glass is very pure, with a feeling of innocence and simplicity, while Fujian Kawakami, in the eyes of Kawakami Cheng, is a green tea bitch with a slutty vibe. "What? Do you need me to help you up?" Quanqing smiled kindly and said, while Wu Gingli shook her head vigorously. "No, no need," she said as she bit her thin lips and rested one hand on the legs of Kazumi Cheng's pants before slowly getting up. Unlike an Iluan, who is also an otaku, although Wu Gingli is also an otaku, her self-esteem is even stronger. Of course, this kind of self-esteem, in the eyes of Wakun Cheng, is just the arrogance of a second-year girl. "It's really thanks to you," she said weakly, her voice decreasing. For Wu Gingli, she had never thanked humanity before. But just now, the fear of impending death had destroyed her self-esteem, and she helped the man stand tenaciously. The energy of the cracked woman erodes, causing her whole body to tremble gently. Being able to maintain this barely standing posture is already very good. "Well, there's no need." Quanqing chuckled lightly and raised his hand to gently stroke the girl's black hair, which seemed like brocade. The soft black hair runs through the fingers, and the faint fragrance of lavender shower gel is totally different from the pungent perfume on Fujian in Sichuan. "No." Kazumi Cheng shook his head suddenly, always subconsciously thinking that it must be the seductive ability of that woman in Kawakami Tomoe, who is already influencing him unconsciously. "Mr. Izumi. Wait for me." In the distance, Fujian Kawakami, who had just been beaten to a pulp, stumbled over. Her clothes were stained with blood, but her injuries had already fully healed. Of course, if it weren't for her lying on the ground just now, licking all the blood stains clean, she would have rushed up and approached Kazumi Shinzo a long time ago. Bang. A muffled sound came from behind Kazumi Makoto. This time, Wakun Cheng cherishes fragrance and cherishes jade, and did not directly punch Fujian, but instead let the black ghost lift the woman and throw it at the garbage bin on the side of the road. Boom. She was smashed directly into the trash can, her long legs stained with blood exposed outside, looking very ridiculous. Lying in the putrid garbage, Kawakami Fujian showed a surprised expression. "Great," she murmured, "Lord Hachuan didn't kill me this time." As she was thinking, she suddenly felt a whirlwind. The trash can was knocked down by a black ghost and then kicked out with a fierce kick. Bang! The trash can and the Tomoe Kawakami in the trash can rolled down the street, and most small towns in Japan are located in mountainous areas with uneven streets. The green trash can rolled down the slope, further and further away, just now. Was it your friend? Wu Gengli, who was close to Higuancheng, asked in a surprised tone. No, that guy is also one of the weird talking ghosts, he's Kawakami Tomoe in the dimensional game system prompt. It's Fujian. Upon hearing this, Wu Gengli nodded clearly and said, no wonder when I saw her, I even felt a bit dazed. I thought there was something wrong with her orientation. Oh. Higuancheng lifted his head and looked at the other three teammates. Except for Ito Makoto, who had already run away, neither Abe Takahiro nor Hiroyoshi Tanaka were influenced by Tomoe Kawakami. They are pure gay, and their life creed is, a true man should be a man. The charm of Kawakami Tomoe is meaningless to them. And an Iluan also this cowardly bespectacled otaku is already lying on the ground again, drooling, watching the direction of Kawakami Tomoe rolling down. If it weren't for the ghostly influence, he would probably just crawl over and lick the trash can containing Fujian, right? Sure enough, the charm of Kawakami Tomoe is too terrifying. Watching an Iluan's bewildered appearance, Higuancheng was deeply moved. However, I may not be unable to counter her abilities. While thinking, he opened the game menu. Player. Higuancheng level LV.5, 0/600, genealogy. Subhuman, EX, physical fitness. 117 spirit. 208 dimensional integral. 1300, do you still have 1300 dimensional points left? Higuancheng looked at the system panel and weighed the big scissors in his hand. He thought for a moment and instead of binding the scissors, he directly used 1300 dimensional points to level up. Consume 600 dimensional points and level up to LV.6, consume 700 dimensional points and level up to LV.7, there are a total of 1300 dimensional points of integration, which exactly elevates Higuancheng to LV.7 and earns a total of 20 free attribute points. Of course, all these 20 free attribute points are also added to the spiritual attribute. In dimensional games, mental attributes and physical attributes are not related to each other and do not limit each other. As long as there are enough points, you can even add 10,000 basic mental attributes, while physical attributes are still at a human level. Even if you can break free from the limitations of flesh and blood and continue to exist in a spiritual state, then your physical attributes will naturally be zero. Ha! Another faint refreshing sensation rushed straight from the back to the brain, causing a sour and refreshing sigh from Higuancheng. Now he has a total of 228 spiritual attributes, and his spiritual power has surpassed that of any human. In the introduction of the system, 100 attributes represent the human mean, while 200 attributes represent the human limit. Nowadays, the basic spiritual attributes of Higuancheng have far exceeded the human limit range. Buzz. In the air, the black ghost wrapped in bandages, resembling a mummy, also emitted a gentle hum, and a black mist emerged from its surface and slowly converged into its body. Its body gradually became robust, and in the perception of Higuancheng, its punching power became even stronger, capable of piercing a 2-meter thick load-bearing wall with just one punch. If you still encounter the cracked woman just now, just punch her into 2 small pancakes. But what about Ito-say? Looking at the 4 people present, Higuancheng asked in confusion, while Tian Suahao scratched his head and pointed to a small alley in the distance. He just ran over there, that kid's quite quick-witted. His words were full of generosity, without any resentment, but it was only natural that even if Ito-Cheng had just desperately stayed here, it was just a meal for the female ghost. He was about to say something, but he suddenly froze and looked solemnly at the alley where Ito-Cheng had escaped. Buzz. In front of him, an invisible black ghost was quietly hanging in the air, and on the ghost's arm, a bandage pointed straight at the alley where Ito Cheng had escaped. That idiot should be in trouble. As he sighed, Kazumi Cheng released the 5 watchful glass beside him and said to Abe Takahiro, who was holding his wound. You guys go to the hospital to treat your injuries first, I'll go find that guy Ito Shing. Be careful, brother Hachuan. Abe Takahiro said bitterly upon hearing this. Before everyone parted ways at noon, he thought that staying in the town was a suicidal act, but he didn't expect this guy to be hidden. Well, there's one more thing. Kazumi Cheng took out a stack of green Fukuzawa Yuki-chi 10,000 yuan banknotes from his pocket and stuffed them directly into Wu Gingli's arms. A total of over 200,000 yen, which is equivalent to 1 or 2,000 yuan in Chinese yuan, is enough for them to clean up their injuries. Hurry up and treat the injury. After patting the little hand of Wu Gunguli, Quan Cheng walked towards the alley without looking back, except for Wu Gunguli holding the stack of yen, with a look of embarrassment on his face. Damn it. She is really too weak. Chapter 10. Chengge, Eternal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Run faster, run away quickly. A boy wearing a high school uniform was running through the intricate alleys of the small town. He, Shigeru Ito, is 16 years old and still a virgin. Excellent in both character and education, with good physical fitness, a gentle and polite personality, and a decent appearance unfortunately, he is a scumbag. As the male protagonist of the drama series, Day on Campus, Ito Shinzo vividly portrays the title of humanoid self-propelled canon, and almost all female characters in this series have an unclear relationship with this Shingo. After having relationships with many female classmates, Ito Cheng chose to withdraw from the martial arts world by hanging his head without mercy. However, he was beheaded and killed by his fellow female classmate, the West Garden Temple World, with a firewood knife, and he lost all his blood. As long as you are an ACGN enthusiast, you won't be unaware of Chengge's name. Now, this clever little ghost is running away in the alleys of the town. After encountering the Rift Woman, he confirmed that his 2 teammates were no match for her. Without hesitation, Chengge abandoned his teammates and rushed into the alley alone, hoping to use the complex terrain to shake off the Rift Woman. However, he forgot that in horror movies, staying alone in such a dark environment is the real danger. Hello. In the distance, at the end of the alley, a female high school student wearing a JK uniform is squatting on the ground. Ito, who had lost his way, quickly leaned in, intending to use his relatively immature and youthful appearance to deceive sympathy, and then let the girl take him out of this complex alley. I'm lost. Do you know how to get here? He leaned in, and the JK female high school student wearing a sailor suit slowly stood up. Pada. Ito Cheng stopped. On his childish face, an uncontrollable fear appeared. In front of me, it's not a beautiful high school girl named JK at all, but a spider monster wearing human clothes. Under the deep blue pleated skirt, there were a pair of spider legs shimmering with cold light, while dim black hair covered a withered face. His face was like a corpse, staring straight at Ito Cheng. The cracked corners of his mouth slowly opened, revealing layers of fangs and sharp teeth inside. Delicious. It murmured softly, its 8 long legs constantly dancing, gently climbing onto the nearby wall, while Ito Shin turned around and ran. Ah 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 ah. He howled and ran awkwardly down the alley towards the distance, but with just one strong jump, the spider descended from the sky and landed directly on him. Yila. A sharp spider leg pierced through his heart, causing Ito's mournful cries to linger. Ha ha ha. A final mournful cry squeezed out of his throat, blood pouring out from his wound. Ito Cheng's eyes gradually dimmed, and his student suit was soaked in crimson blood. Click. Immediately after, another spider leg slashed at Ito Shinzo's head, severing his head off his neck. A shower of fresh blood, like spring water, spilled on Spider Girl, staining her JK uniform red. Clothes. A hoarse and dry voice rang out, and the spider girl looked at the bloodstains on her body, then was attracted by Ito Cheng's head. Using sharp spider legs, he picked up Ito Shinzo's head and gradually cut open his scalp. Among the rows of fangs, he poked out a sharp mouthpiece that resembled a straw. Then, like drinking coconut juice, his mouthpiece pierced into Ito Cheng's skull, sucking on this guy's brain. Player Ito Cheng has exited, and there are currently 9 players remaining. Damn it. Kazumi Cheng shuttled through the alley and couldn't help but clench his fist when he heard the system prompt. In front of him, an invisible black ghost was quietly hovering. This black ghost is suspended in mid-air, but its speed is much faster than Kazumi running. On the arm of the black ghost, a piece of bandage floats, like a compass pointing straight in the direction of Spider Girl. However, due to the complex terrain of the alleyway, Kazumi Makoto spent a long time circling around before gradually finding the location of Spider Girl. Unfortunately, that scumbag is still dead. Some regret, for Kazumi Cheng, watching a similar person so easily killed still leaves a hint of unbearable feeling in his heart. Of course, there is only a slight sense of rabbit death and fox sorrow. After all, Ito Cheng is also a player of dimensional games and has had a chance encounter before. TSK, he died so miserably. Looking at the headless corpse on the ground, Wazumi Cheng stopped in his tracks. Ito Cheng's remains lay on the ground, his head nowhere to be seen, and the crimson blood turned into a pool of blood. On his chest, there was a hole the size of a bowl, and his entire heart was torn apart by a single blow, clearly a fatal injury. The traces on the ground are very messy. Quanqing looked around but couldn't find any trace of ghosts or monsters, except for sharp scratches on the ground, as if they had been fiercely cut by a sharp blade. The hard bluestone slabs were all cut into pieces like tofu. Also, this is. Under the body of Ito Cheng, there was a piece of equipment emitting a pure white radiance. Click. Kicking open Ito Cheng's body, Izumi Cheng picked up a firewood knife from the pool of blood. Even though placed in the pool of Ito Shin's blood, this firewood knife remains fresh and fresh, carrying a terrifying chill. Chai Dao, this unique tool is similar to an extended household kitchen knife, with a barb at the top of the blade, which looks very sharp. Surprisingly. Looking at this firewood knife, a faint and solemn expression appeared on Kazumi Cheng's face. Blood-stained firewood knife type. Short-handled cutting tool, firewood knife. Quality. EX power. 100 active skills. Bloody romance. After using this skill, a mandatory contract will be signed with the opposite sex, and the damage suffered by both parties will be shared with each other. This contract will not be terminated by skills below the rule level. Introduction. Offering our lives, come and die together. Binding consumes 1000 dimensional points. After binding, it can be placed in system space, equipped, and traded. This proactive skill is really. Kazumi Cheng stared at the system menu, lightly licking the corners of his mouth with a hint of inexplicable surprise in his eyes. For most dimensional players, this skill may seem like a chicken rib, but for Kazumi Cheng, who has Asian ancestry, it is incredibly compatible. When facing opposite-sex bosses, he only needs to use the skills on this firewood knife and perform a lewd operation of, "I'll cut myself," to directly kill most of the opposite-sex bosses. Moreover, it seems that this active skill will not be easily released, and there is a lot of room for operation for Kazumi Cheng. Ji. A soft noise echoed from above his head. At some point, a ferocious spider was hanging above his head, with its sharp mouthpiece aimed at Kazumi Cheng's skull, and then stabbed fiercely. Bang! One punch. The black ghost punched the big spider and sent it flying, turning the bloodstained JK sailor uniform on its body into shattered pieces of cloth. I'm enjoying the sadness of licking my bag with tears in my eyes, don't disturb me. Quanqing turned around and looked at the spider girl who had fallen to the ground and rolled in embarrassment. Spiders, females, and the ability to mimic adults, are you the internet bride in the strange talk? Looking at the spider girl, the corner of Kazumi Cheng's mouth lifted, revealing a hint of playful grimace. I just don't know, how many dimensional points are you worth? Zhi. The bride of the Luo family howled in sorrow as she finally turned around. The head of Ito Cheng, who had been holding it in her arms, also fell to the ground and was squeezed into pieces of scum. Ito Cheng's brain has been drained by it, and after devouring Ito Cheng, it feels a sense of fullness in its lower abdomen. Now, looking at this prey, He Quancheng is eager to try, jumping onto the nearby wall with force, and then throwing a piece of spider silk at He Quancheng. Bang! However, the black ghost rushed directly to Kazumi Masahiro and blocked the corrosive spider silk with its body. The next moment, under the bewildered gaze of the bride, the spider silk that had stopped in the air fell to the ground. Kazumi Masayoshi cancelled the summoning of the black ghost, allowing it to avoid being bound by spider silk, and then condensed it back out in an instant. Go ahead, solve it. Pointing directly at the jumping bride on the wall, under the command of Kazumi Shin, the reshaped black ghost transformed into a phantom. The fist wrapped in bandages had already been raised high and smashed fiercely at the bride's head. Bang! The bride who was stuck on the wall was instantly smashed into the wall. An irresistible force, repeatedly hitting it, no barrier, no barrier, no barrier, no barrier, no barrier. In Kazumi Masahiro's perspective, the black ghost waved its steel fist, crushing the body of the bride into debris inch by inch like a pile driver. In the eyes of the bride, an invisible impact struck her, and she was unwilling to stare fiercely at the distant prey. Her body, under the non-stop bombardment, turned into fragmented scum. Sharp spider legs, sturdy spider shells, and even white spider eggs scattered from the walls of the alley. The deep blue insect blood soaked the walls of the alley, and a curtain of light bloomed in front of Kazumi Cheng. Kill the bride of the network and obtain 1,000 dimensional points. Oh. It's quite valuable. As he spoke, He Quancheng walked towards the body of Luo Xinfu, wanting to see what equipment this female spider had dropped. Squeak, squeak. Immediately after, the spider eggs hatched in an instant, and hundreds of spiders the size of fists rushed towards Kazumi Cheng like a black cloud. The two were already within reach, and there was still a hint of contemptuous sneer on Kazumi Cheng's face. Call out. In the air, a strong wind blew by. The black ghost recombined in front of Kazumi Shin and exploded in an instant. The release of the black ghost turned into a storm, causing Kazumi Cheng to stumble back a few steps, while those poisonous little spiders were also blown to the end of the alley by the strong wind. Up, don't keep one. He Quancheng spoke in a deep voice, and the black ghost recombined again. It transformed into a phantom and punched the little spider on the wall and ground. In an instant, hundreds of little spiders turned into minced meat, and these little spiders also made a profit for Hechuan Cheng. Kill the young bride and obtain 10 dimensional points. A total of 179 little spiders were transformed into 1790 dimensional points, and with the addition of the previous online bride, this time He Quancheng made a fortune. Little brother, it's really thanks to you. He kicked the body of Ito Cheng. Originally, he wanted to find a place to bury Ito Cheng, but to avoid trouble, let this young man endure and leave the body on the street for now. With brisk steps, Kazumi Cheng stepped out of this smelly alley. The body of Ito Cheng lying on the ground moved slowly with his fingers. His story has not yet come to an abrupt end.